We continue on Offside Sports inside the Loft 100 studios in Southern California. Woo, it's getting hot in here. Presented by Turtlebox Audio, waterproof, durable, and insanely loud. Find their industry-changing portable speakers at turtleboxaudio.com. This portion of the program presented by our good friends at Emerald Spear Tequila, a veteran-owned small batch tequila inspired by brotherhood and coastal adventure, crafted in the highlands of Jalisco for those who appreciate uncompromising quality. Find the bottle nearest you at emeraldspear.com. We were talking about tempers flaring, Dodgers Padres, Caitlin Clark getting knocked around and stuff, and we mentioned the text chain between Allison and Dave. I understand from our Emmy Award-winning director, Jared Coleman, they are efforting the text chain. So you guys want to see some fireworks, we'll have them for you. The NBA wrapped up their season last night. You had the Oklahoma City Thunder beating the Indiana Pacers 4-3. The Thunder took down Indiana 103-91, and it really wasn't as close as that score may indicate. For those of you who don't know, Tyrese Haliburton, who's just everything to the Pacers, goes out early with an Achilles tear, and you could tell. I mean, you saw the blah, 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 blah,
right
blah,
up the calf.
when it rides up the calf, you're like, oh my God. The thing is, the regular season, as far as the TV ratings are concerned, the regular season was down about 2% overall in the NBA, and the finals heading into Game 7 last night were down 23% when you compare it with what happened in last year's finals.
Yes.
And the metrics show that once Haliburton went out for the Pacers, the ratings just tanked. Now a lot of people came back to see, because I think Indiana did get it within either 11 or 10. That was the closest they would get, and the rest it was just the last. Did you watch it all out?
Yeah.
Dave? Okay.
Yeah.
The last 4 minutes were just like whatever.
Yeah.
It was, first of all, if you stayed around and you watched the end of it, it was bizarre because it was the first championship ever for Oklahoma City.
Yep.
By the way, one more for that city than San Diego and the Padres have, but that's a whole other subject. But anyway, when they won, the reaction was very strange. The players acted like it was a Thursday night game in January. It was so casual. The fans didn't freak out. It wasn't what you remember with the Bulls or the Lakers. It wasn't anyone jumping up on the stand. It was bizarre. It was so casual. It wasn't even fun.
Dave, you know what? I didn't pay that close attention to it, but as you're mentioning it right now, I'm thinking to myself, it was very, very businesslike.
Yes.
And in the post-game interviews, their head coach said these guys, they act like professionals. They act like they act like champions. They act like, hey, we expected to do this. And I mean, I'm happy for OKC. I'm happy for any city when they get their first championship.
How do you think Seattle felt?
Oh,
If you're a Supersonics fan and your team was taken away and that happened?
exactly. And now that are they the first or second youngest team in the NBA? 25.7 years is what they average.
Average 1 year older than Auburn, who was just finished March Madness.
And they have a first round pick for like the next 7 years.
Yeah, they have a bunch of first round picks.
And all those second round picks that are coming. And so now, if you have all that, that's great. You still have to get these guys, to coalesce, to buy into it. But you have such youth that has now won a major championship in the NBA, like the Oklahoma City Thunder, and so they know what the recipe is. So it's not going to be tough for them if they're going to bring in a free agent or bring in somebody to kind of do it the Thunder way.
But overall, this is bad for the league.
Not
And
good.
This is bad for advertisers, right?
Yep.
I mean, it's all about advertising money, as we spent a lot of time in the first segment talking about Ohtani. This is bad for the league. David Stern used to say all the time, what is the perfect NBA Finals, you ask? That's Lakers versus Lakers. That would be the perfect NBA Finals.
Right.
Obviously, he's talking big market. So Knicks, Lakers, Celtics, those are things that obviously would pay off. The Golden State Warriors did extremely well. And superstars. Nothing against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but he's from Canada. It doesn't help the sport that this is what's happening when you have Oklahoma City that's about to be set for a dynasty right now with all the young talent, as you just mentioned, and to say, where do you go from here? Well, if you're the NBA, you should be concerned right now.
Well, and are there any the big star names in the NBA right now? Like, okay, SGA, I guess, but like, would you know him if you weren't following the Oklahoma City Thunder? So okay, Luka,
LeBron, of course.
LeBron, obviously, the Nuggets,
Giannis.
Jokic.
yes.
Jokic,
so,
Giannis.
so there's a few big names that you know, but it's overall like there aren't that. It's not like it used to be where you had the big names of Michael Jordan and
Magic,
Larry Bird and all those big names, and so it's just feels very different now.
And there's, Dave, you mentioned what former NBA Commissioner David Stern said, and when the Lakers and the Celtics played in championships against each other, they did not like each other.
No, not at all.
When the Knicks and the Pacers, they did not like each other. Any team the Pistons were playing against, that team hated the Detroit Pistons. Chicago was like, Jordan was going to get you TV ratings. It didn't matter who the Bulls were beating in their championships. They were just, you're like, I get to see Jordan play. Back to the end of the game, and the players were very respectful, hugging guys. I just think it's gotten to the point of, and we talked about tempers flaring, in baseball and what's happening with Kate and Clark, and you see fights once in a while in the NFL. Hockey, fighting is a part of the game. I just think that, to your point about the NBA being in trouble from a rating standpoint, there is just so much money out there now. Are we ever going to have the bad boys? Are you ever going to have another Kevin McHale pulling Magic to the floor, or that, someone corralling Larry Bird around the neck and slamming him to the ground? Bill Laimbeer taking people out. I don't know if you're ever going to get that again. And to me, that is what's going to get your ratings, aside from great basketball.
Well, I also think the season's gotten too long.
Oh my God!
These series going 7 games, it's so long.
Training camps open up tomorrow.
I know. When it used to end somewhere around Father's Day, that seemed long.
The time
it used to end in
between
May.
games.
Then it was Father's Day. Now it's a full week after Father's Day before the end of
It's
this
the
year.
time in between games is insane. That's the problem right now. Really, the NBA should redo their schedule, in my opinion. Is that obviously in the United States, football runs everything. College football, NFL football. Why would you start the NBA season in October? It makes zero sense. You're in the Major League Baseball playoffs or World Series. What the NBA should do, and most people who are NBA fans start watching, is Christmas Day.
Yep.
Right.
Start the NBA season on Christmas Day, and you run it through August.
Right.
Stretch it out. And guess what? That will help some of the teams like the Milwaukee Bucks, who guys say, I don't want to go to Milwaukee. I'm freezing in Milwaukee in the winter. Well, if you stretch the season out through the summertime, all of a sudden weather doesn't become such a huge factor for Minnesota, for Milwaukee, wherever you're freezing, over the excuse that guys go, I got to get to a warm weather climate. But look, if you aren't going to watch in October, what's the point of putting the sport on in October? And to go 3-4 days in between each NBA Finals game, that's insane.
Remember when it used to be like, oh my God, now they got to fly all the way back across the United States. So you won your game, you lost your game, you jumped on your airplane either that night or the morning, you flew, you got into town, you had a shoot around the next morning, and you played the game that night. It was game off, that type of thing. And that natural fatigue would figure into, okay, who really is the strongest of the teams out there. You're right, Dave. And now that it's like the NHL, they just got done with the Stanley Cup, and it was good ratings for the Panthers and Edmonton, that series. But now they're like, okay, when you guys schedule your games? Okay, we've got to schedule our games here, that type of thing. And if you're a fan, you're not allowed to get into a groove like you
forget when the next game's going.
It was.
Yeah.
And so
one of those, like, I'm even going to watch. I'm not a fan of either team, but I like basketball. Am I even going to watch because I don't know when the next game is?
Are we just fans though of the big market teams? We were talking before the show in the baseball parlance. If we get a Brewers-Rays World Series, is that like, if you're the commissioner, are you just going, oh my God?
That's what you're doing.
This is the death knell, because our advertisers are going to say, you didn't deliver on what you promised. We want our money back.
Yeah.
I mean, ESPN's getting out of the baseball game kind of for that reason. But when you have a situation like you had Yankees and Dodgers last year, that was obviously the perfect scenario for Major League Baseball. And around the world it was too.
Right. But
it could happen. You could get a Brewers-Rays one day. You could get the A's, who don't have a permanent home, playing against the Milwaukee Brewers. Whatever.
Can you imagine the World Series at the A's Stadium in Sacramento?
Yeah.
That would be.
Or,
it could happen.
Tampa Bay's using this year. They're using the Yankee spring training site. I mean, it would be a complete disaster.
I think that maybe as the newer generation come, like if Oklahoma City now goes on this tear,
Yep.
like they're set up to do, then it just becomes okay, how many can they get? Who's gonna knock them off their perch? But I guarantee you right now, they're panicking in New York. Adam Silver's going, oh my, how much money are we going to have to pay back for not being able to deliver the ratings that we had hoped you'd normally get, like with an East Coast, West Coast sort of.
Pay attention to the
matchup.
primetime schedule next year, by the way. I guarantee you Lakers will still have more games primetime than Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
All right, what's top of mind this week, and who leads in these standings in our weekly, daily fantasy bets? Dave, you don't want to see the standings. We have your gots and your bots as Offside Sports continues right after this.